Welcome to the WealthGenius podcast, brought to you by the Expand Wealth Real Estate Fund. Expand your wealth by investing in apartment buildings. Go to expandwealthfund.com to book your info session. The WealthGenius podcast, strategies for multifamily real estate investing, mindset, community, success. The WealthGenius podcast with your host, the godfather of real estate, Alfonso, who has expansive experience in business and massive success as a real estate investor. The WealthGenius podcast. Let's dive into today's episode.
We're rolling. We're just right into it.
Yeah.
No, I love it. So before this, Steve, we were saying that it's so funny when we met. You know, it's like we discovered that, hey, you've been around a while. I've been around a while, and our paths never really
crossed.
That's so bizarre.
The world is such a big, beautiful place, but it's so small because the amount of paths that cross and intersect with the people that we know is amplified. Because I went right back to my real estate office with Keller Williams, and I said, I met this really cool dude by the name of Alfonso, and people are like, I know who that is. I knew who that is. And I was like, oh, you got to come to the WealthGenius thing. I think I've already signed up for it. And so there's so many integral parts where we've connected in third party. It's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. And then, when I met you, I definitely, we resonated right away.
Yep.
And I knew I had to get you on the podcast, and knowing that you're the podcast guy. How we doing here?
I think we're doing fantastic. Number one, I love the fact of the way that you've set up your program for the day, and in that you're producing a lot of content to release over a period of time that makes it so much easier than when it just drags out, over months and months and months, and you kind of feel like you don't have enough in the bank is what I'll call it. So I think the way that you're doing it's great. You've got a great team as well behind you as well. So
best team.
Yeah.
So let's go back kind of. I know that there's all these things, these categories that things that you do, which are very exciting, and those are some of the things that I love. Interviewing someone that I really don't know much about, and I get to discover them right here on the show.
Yep.
So let's go back to the beginning before getting into real estate. Right, because you're a real estate broker, an investor, and then you have this podcasting company, and I think you're very passionate about that.
Very much.
So I want to make sure that we can touch on that.
Well, I want to go back to when I was 5 years old.
Okay, let's do it.
And when I was 5 years old, number one, I had a great mom and a great dad. My dad was an entrepreneur. He was doing things like Amway and that sort of thing. So he was really trying to get out, and they were doing a lot of things. They were going to a lot of events.
I love that. I've been down that path, the direct selling.
Yep.
And that just strengthens you as an entrepreneur.
100% it does. And, it gives you a lot of, and really gives you an understanding and awareness of the value of having a really good sales acumen. Because on the other side of any transaction in sales is the value that you can give to your client. Because if they don't do business with you, they can't receive the value. So the first thing is understanding the value of sales. So that was built in my DNA when I was younger. Fast forward to, a couple years ago, I started to realize a missing link, because as you start growing and scaling different businesses, your direct sales have less impact. And then you need to build a sales team, and then your sales team needs to have leads. And if you're trying to drum up all those yourself, it becomes very difficult on a one-to-one basis. That's when the word marketing became really important to me. At the beginning, it was always sales. It was just, I go out, I meet somebody, we close, we move, shake, we get things done. But then I realized, oh my gosh, I need more attention. And that's when marketing became really important. And that's when I went down this path.
And so you're doing the real estate, and you're a real estate agent, and you're selling homes. Is that kind of the focus?
I first started off with a construction business back in 2005. We were building some of the largest houses in Canada. The largest house we were part of was a 55,000 square foot home.
Wow.
And I think we did 12 of those.
55. Hold on a second. 55,000.
55,000 square feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's Drake's house.
I think that was smaller. Yeah. But we did a bunch of those, and we ran into a lot of really amazing people until you run into the one that isn't. And where construction profit margins aren't the greatest, compared to some of the other industries they're in. We ran into some problems. And in 2014, it was one of the toughest years of my life. Number one, there was a lot of constriction in the money in the market.
I remember that.
It was a tough year, man. It was a very tough year. And manufacturers then were cutting back on investments. So there's a lot of manufacturer defects, warranties weren't being offered, and clients weren't paying. I grew that company up to 20 employees. We had multiple trucks on the road. I ended up having to shut that business down under duress. I was about, I would say, around $750,000 in the hole when I shut that business down. My wife was off on mat leave. So we were on our second child, and I had no idea what to do. And so luckily I had back then I would say a friend, and now I would call a mentor. Her name was Michelle Mason. She was a real estate agent with Remax. And she said to me, she said, why don't you, because I didn't know what to do. And she said, why don't you get into real estate? I'm like, real estate? Real estate agents are the lowest scum of the earth. Why would I want to do that? and she said to me, she goes, Steve, like, I'm a real estate agent. Do you think I'm scum? And I'm like, no, you're different. And she says, well, you can be different too. And so then I got my real estate license, and I sold, I think, around 43 houses in my first year of real estate. So for any
43 houses.
Yeah. So for any agent, that's a lot, for their first year. I was only able to do that because I had a good mentor. And she coached me through all the pitfalls, because the thing is, you could have all the drive and all the ambition in the world, but if you don't have somebody to help you guide and miss those landmines that exist, you're going to lose a lot of inertia. Sure, you can get to the end of the game, but you're going to come out with a lot of bumps and bruises.
And I think you talked about some of the values that aligned between me and you.
Yeah.
And one of them is integrity. I think that's definitely important. And I think when someone has a like integrity and they lead with that, and I could easily see how you could sell 43 homes in a year if you're offering massive value and you have integrity, and you're not going to be the scum of the earth. No. You could actually have an impact on an industry where you bring some of those values, and you just you give it a different brand. You rebrand it.
That's right. And in real estate, there is a lot of amazing agents out there. There's a lot of great agents who bring a lot of value to the industry. Unfortunately, there's equal amount, if not more, that don't.
Yeah. And what do you think that is?
I think
lack of training. You think
100%. I personally believe that real estate should be an apprenticeship. So anybody who's coming into real estate needs to apprentice on somebody who has experience. Mm-hmm. And I think there needs to be a minimum standard of performance every year, because if you're selling one house a year, you're not going to bring value to the transaction for that buyer or seller. And if you're doing 10, 12, 15, 20 houses a year, you're going to be the person who's going to say, okay, now I know what I'm doing, because the market's constantly changing. Mm-hmm. So I think you got to be in it to win it for your client, not just in it to win it for yourself. And I think that's the biggest problem that happens in real estate.
And it's hard if you're like moonlighting. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? Like, I'll show you the house at 8:00 when I'm done my
day
job, and I take the kids to grandma's house, and you know what I mean. And then I'll show you the house, and then by that time, someone bought another house.
Well, and that's the one thing that when I first came. So talking about how we met is I first came out just to meet up with Thomas Larini, because I had met him a long time ago at an event in Las Vegas, and we just hit it off, got along really well, but he got busy, I got busy, we didn't connect. And then I was just, doom scrolling one evening on Instagram, and up came this Thomas Larini in Toronto. I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen that guy in so long. I got to go check this out. And I bought a ticket because I just came out to go see Thomas. And I came in, we just started shooting the breeze. I'm like, I'll just hang out for a little bit. Well, it was a 3-day event. And so a little bit turned to a lot of a bit, and I stayed for the whole time. And I can tell you the reasons why. Number one, everything that you taught was authentically true. So there was not one thing that I went, now I see the catch. Because there's certain pitfalls that happen in the real estate market where you can get these gurus that tell you to go down these paths, and these paths are fraught with a lot of problems. So I think, you've planned it out in a way that you show people how to win it in the short game and the long game, and to do that with integrity. And that's something that I stand by.
I appreciate that. We aim to do that, right? Yeah. We don't, we're not attracting people because I'm standing in front of a Ferrari, right? I'm in fact truthful. Like, it's gonna work if you do. Like, WealthGenius, what we have here will work if you're willing to put in the work, and it's gonna require effort.
Yep.
right? We have the system, we have everything in place, but it's going to require some effort. And what I loved, and I think where we both agree, is this, to grow the business, you can't do it without people, and you can't do it without attention.
That's right.
And that attention, you can get it many different ways, right? And for example, there's some people that have helicopters and mansions and Ferraris, and you'll get that type of attention. Not everybody has the money to rent those things, right? To do a commercial to attract people to your business. And what I like is very simply growing your business through conversations.
Absolutely.
Right? And to me, I was like, bam. That's how I grew my business. And if I can be honest with people, the ability of communicating on stage has opened up all of the doors for me. Yep. And when we talk about real estate, the most valuable piece of real estate that exists on planet Earth is the stage.
Yep.
This is a stage. From stage we have ended wars. From stage we have started wars. From the stage we have inspired change, like Martin Luther King's "I Got a Dream." So it's the attention is so valuable. To have people's eyeballs, right, and to do it through conversation style, like the idea that someone could have a podcast. And interview people and create value for people, where now people are going to come to you because now you're the perceived expert.
Yep.
I'm like, that's a game changer for a lot of people. And the system that you have and how to do that. I want to talk a little bit about how you got into that. First of all, yep. I mean, you woke up one day and you said, I want to produce everybody's podcast. How does that work?
So I had the broker of record for Keller Williams Innovation, Andre. He had a podcast, and he had me as a guest on his show. And then he said to me, Steve, you should start a podcast. He says, it seems like it'd be right up your alley. And I went, okay, I'll try this thing and just see what happens. So I went out and I did all my homework of, doing this and getting this software here and downloading this software there and looking at this guru here and this whatever and following all the different things. And then I took a couple courses, and I took a couple more courses, and then I just built up this knowledge repository. And then people started asking me questions. Well, how do I do it? How do I do it? And the more people that you would have as guests on, they're like, I'd like to do this as well. Because as the second you get on as a guest, you realize very quickly that you're renting space. Mm-hmm. As a guest, like here, for example, right now, I'm renting space on your podcast to talk about things that are important to both of us.
Yeah.
But I don't own it. Mm-hmm. You do. Mm-hmm. And so that you very quickly realize that. And then you say, well, why don't I have my own so that I can own it? Just like in real estate, there's certain times that it's great to rent space in real estate. Like maybe if you got a retail or something like that, you don't want to own a whole strip mall. But then there's other times that it's an important decision to actually own the real estate. And if you can own the real estate, you can invest in the real estate. If you don't own it, you're probably not going to invest into it. You're going to invest in it at the moment, but not in perpetuity. Yeah. And so we found that a lot of the guests that came on the show started saying, well, I want to start my own. And so we'd help them along the way. So my whole job in life, I feel like, is just to be the tip of the spear. Mm-hmm. And I want to be the one who's going to take all the brunt, going to find the way to go through things so that, I can take and bear the scars and all those sort of things so that other people don't have to. And so in the podcasting, we've gone through a lot of that, different technologies, different systems, and different models. And the one thing that I can definitely say that people mostly get wrong about podcasting is that they don't have the intention up front of why am I doing this? Sometimes they say, I just want to start a podcast, and they just start doing it, and they actually don't intentionally have a reason for doing it.
Yeah, it's, people have this idea, you're going to become Joe Rogan, and make millions of dollars. Now
I can correct on that. You don't have to be Joe Rogan to make millions of dollars on your podcast.
Where I was going was you're going to make money not from the podcast, but because of the podcast.
100% agree with that. Yeah. A lot of people are looking for sponsors for their podcast. They go out and they're like, oh, come on, sponsor my podcast. Meanwhile, they have the best sponsor right behind them. They don't even know it. And that best sponsor is themselves. And that person will always pay you. That person will always look after you, always support everything that you're doing.
Yeah, WealthGenius.
It's
They're always
amazing.
here.
They're always here.
Best sponsor.
Best sponsor for yourself, 100%. And if you can use that as a vehicle, because you really have three audiences when you have a podcast. You've got the audience of the many, right? And I call this attention wealth. So when you have the podcast and it's going out, I think we're at about 15,000 subscribers now on our YouTube channel. We get a couple 100,000 views a month. So we're building up some attention wealth on the podcast, on the YouTube side. And that one's great, but it might not pay dividends today. It's going to pay dividends tomorrow. So I'm not going to be able to pay my mortgage from that. I'm not going to go out and be able to buy real estate from that, but it's going to give me something at some point in the future. And what it might pay today is maybe a little bit of a social proofing, because somebody would look and say, you know, who is this person? You know, I want to invest in their deal. Who is this person?
I agree that like we say that to our students. They create a track record of legitimacy.
Yep.
Right? So that digital footprint, you know, it's not just creating a Facebook account. It's not just, having a nice Instagram, but there has to be other supporting documentation that says, yes, it's true. You are an expert in your field.
Absolutely. And so if you win in the long game of creating attention wealth, you win in the mid game of creating social proofing, so that you have that track record of engagement, so people can look and say, well, this person just didn't show up yesterday. They've been around for a little bit. That's something that's really important. And then you can win in the short game. And the short game is a beautiful game to win, because if you have a podcast, let's just say, for example, your goal is to find as many dentists to invest in your different projects that you have. Because dentists, their businesses produce a fair bit of revenue, and you want to kind of hit it. So why not start a podcast that talks about dentistry? And you start interviewing dentists. And guess who's going to show up to be a guest on your podcast? Dentists. And then guess what's going to happen? You're going to start a communication with them. And it goes right back to what you said in the very beginning. Your business is built on authentic, truthful conversations that are built on integrity. And so if you have that conversation with the intentionality of learning about that individual, they're going to reciprocate and want to learn about you. And that's the start of an amazing relationship. So you can win in the short game by building really good relationships and using that as a starting point to be able to really accelerate your business. Or you can use it as the mid game, which is social proofing, in order showing that you have a track record of success. Or you can win it as the long game. My suggestion is, why use or? Go for and.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see some sort of metrics or numbers on how many podcasts are actually started. You know, there was this podcast that I was watching, and I think it was called, I can't remember, but something about the 1%. It's called the 1%, or I don't know. And the reason that the person that was running the podcast, I really don't know the name, but something along the line, it was like 4% or 10% or 24%. I can't even remember the percentage. But the concept of the podcast is the average podcast only makes it to like 20 episodes.
Yep.
And then they never continue ever again. So because this particular podcast is made it past whatever the average, they're like now the whatever percent. I can't remember.
Yep.
I'm paraphrasing.
Yep.
But so what is it, like how many, do you have that number? Like how many podcasts are created on a yearly basis all over the world?
So many. And so many, it's just like how many real estate agents start into real estate.
Yeah.
How many mortgage brokers start into that? How many investors say they're going to go out and create, massive wealth through multifamily?
Yeah.
There's a Pareto principle that exists in every industry. And the Pareto principle is also known as the 80-20, where 20% do 80% of the work. The 80% wish they could be the 20. And there's a bell curve on that. And with podcasting, you definitely will find that in the podcasting space as well, is that people will get on. The biggest challenge is they never connect to their big why. They never see, how does this effort pay off? And if they could start to reconcile those things and put a KPI around it. I've had so many people ask me, well, Steve, how many episodes should I be doing? And I said, if every episode gave you 10 grand in your pocket, how many would you do?
Every day.
Every day. Yeah, totally. And so to me, that's why I love podcasting, because I know there's money that goes in my pocket every single day that when I do a podcast.
Yeah.
because I'm building relationships that I believe are high value relationships. I've had billionaires on my podcast. I've had multimillionaires on my podcast. We've had people who invest capital in other people's real estate deals that came out of our podcast. And so there's a lot of this that happens, this ecosystem of growth that happens behind the scenes as a result of building relationships with the guests, as a result of walking in with really good social proofing. And to be honest, with the long form, which is the audience, we've had deals come back that have closed based on the audience as well now. So because we've had enough roadmap.
And so what's the system that you offer, and what's the difference between someone just kind of like pressing record on Zoom, which they can easily do, versus, you know, getting a bit more professional, hiring your company, and, you know, getting a set, you know, having cameras and people with headphones in the back, and, you know, EAs looking at their laptops. Like, where should we start, and what's the difference?
Yeah, for sure. And look, you can grab your phone and just literally press go, and you don't even need Zoom. And you can record that, and you can find some free software out there to put it out into the ether, and it can make it happen, either with audio or with video. Just go make it happen. Like, if that's what you want to do it that way. You're going to find the hard road. So now you're going to find out the ways, okay, how am I going to go through and maybe write up all my descriptions, maybe do my chapters, how to release on all the different platforms, and oh, this software doesn't do this, and oh, this software doesn't do that. So now you end up buying 3, 4, 5 different softwares. You end up having to migrate twice, 3 times, and it can be very difficult. And how I know this is because I've gone through this road already. That's being part of being the tip of the spear.
Yeah.
So you can take the hard road, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. You've earned that right to say you've gone through everything of the difficulties. But just like me selling 43 houses in my first year of real estate, you can bypass that, and you can skip to the front of the line in a VIP position and avoid all the pitfalls and avoid all those headaches and heartaches by bringing somebody onto your team who's going to help you to be able to do that. That's called leverage. That's the same thing why a lot of people don't manage their own properties, because they want leverage. So look, if you're somebody who says, I want to do everything on my own, go do it on your own. And you'll be perfectly fine to go through all those hurdles, and you'll earn every badge and every scar that you've got. Or you can skip the line, get that VIP experience, get to the front of the line, and start seeing success today.
I can't remember the name of this girl, but she was pretty famous. She interviewed Drake in a bed. You know, I don't know what, like not like anything sexual, but she just like hanging out with Drake and you know, drinking champagne.
Is it the Who's Your Daddy or whatever?
Bobby Alta. Okay, yeah, Bobby Alta. Yeah, so that girl right there, she was interviewing Mark Cuban, and she was talking about investments, and then he asked her, what have you invested? Have you done any investing? And she's like, well, the only investment that I've made is in the investment in the podcast.
Yep.
And so, you know, she's everywhere, right? She's interviewed Drake. She's interviewed all these people. And, you know, ultimately, she didn't just arrive there. She made an investment into people, maybe cameras, you know, mics. I mean, there has to be a level of investment. The way I look at it is, like, if you want serious people on your podcast, you have to be perceived as serious, right? If you take this seriously, then now, if someone has to start, they can. I mean, the good news is anybody can start. Yep. That's like, everybody has that ability to start, and when you start, no one's going to judge you before starting, but people need to see a progression. Like, wow, the podcast used to be on Zoom, now it's got lighting, now it's got, you know, a set or whatever. And so in my mind is like, the faster you can get a team, the faster you can work with someone that knows what they're doing, the more serious you're going to appear, and the more the quality of the guests you'll be able to attract.
100% agree with that. And I think it's just like if you're going out and trying to raise capital and you're saying, well, I figured out my own method of, this and that and whatever. That's very different than saying I've graduated from WealthGenius and I've got a program to back me up.
Yeah.
And I've got a team to back me up to say, no, this is a vetted deal and it actually makes sense. That's a whole different level of when you're talking to an investor. Yeah. And I think that's why, in podcasting, you need to have somebody who's already gone down that path before. And specifically, look, I can look at somebody like, Graham Stephan, for example. He's one of the people that I follow. He's got the Iced Coffee Hour. It's a great podcast. I met him down actually when I was hanging out with Thomas Larini back in Las Vegas. It was Meet Kevin, Graham Stephan. They were there.
Yeah, I know those guys.
And it was great to have conversation. I didn't realize how short Graham was. But don't, take that as a slide. But, he's done a wonderful job with this podcast. And
that's usually what I get.
Just big personalities on the camera. Yeah.
Oh, that's you.
Yeah. You're a lot balder than I thought you were. Yeah.
I get both of those things. Yeah. But you were saying?
Yeah. So you look at the path of those people and you see, if you look at the early videos of Graham, I mean, he was clunking it through, using real estate and that sort of thing. And then he kind of did a little bit of a pivot, and did another pivot again. And I think one of the things that stopped people at the very beginning of getting things going is they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lock into this thing and I'm going to be stuck in this forever. Pivot. I mean, my first podcast was called the OP3M podcast because I loved the OPM, other people's money, right? We all know what that is. And when I said OP3M, it was great for me and the three friends and I who were having a laugh about it, but everybody else had no idea. They're like, opium? Like, what are you talking about? I didn't know you were going down that path. So I quickly pivoted, and after 10 episodes, we changed it to the money, the mindset, and the mentoring podcast. And so that podcast has done extremely well because it's now recognized and it's a lot easier to grow on that way. But it all starts from
I'm still waiting for the invite, though.
You're on my show anytime. You get front of the line VIP experience.
All right, I'm just
absolutely, yeah.
I'm just joking. And so, what's the what's the process? Like, how do you identify? How do I know that I should be working with you?
So first of all, I want to know that you have a business that you can drive revenue to, and because we really work with people who want to create revenue out of podcasting. Because I want to know that there's a metric for success. Because if we don't have a success plan, we're really kind of running into the unknown. So that's the first thing. I want to see what success looks like for you and how you define that coming through podcast. It might be economic. It might be your network. It might be your skills. It might be just your mental sanity. Like, these are different ways that fundamentally you can win through podcasting. Having a lot of great conversations creates great skills in communication, but it also allows you to grow as a human being. You learn so much through podcasting. And I know personally I've grown a lot through that because I've had amazing guests. And so that's that. So as long as we understand what that is, then what we do is you go to podcastlaunch.ai, and that's where you can find all the different programs. And just find out, all the different ways that you can do. We provide technology, we provide training, we provide community, we provide support, everything that you need to create success in your podcast. And we can find guests for your show so that you don't have to. We can manage the whole thing around the guests so you don't have to think about it. And if you don't want to click those nice, easy AI buttons that we have, we can have a team that'll click them for you.
So the whole process, and before we got on, you said you're managing how many podcasts?
About 100 podcasts.
100 podcasts. Wow.
Yeah.
And total, do you know how many total you've produced in your lifetime?
They grow so fast. We've got over thousands. I would say thousands of episodes.
Wow.
Yeah, thousands of episodes.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. It's a lot of social capital that's been created.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's the relationships that have come out of podcasting that I see. We have one of our team members meeting with a person who's going on Joe Rogan in January.
Really?
And so he's really excited about that. So that's pretty cool. So you just get that. I mean, I have a lady that I met with. Her artwork is now up in space, sent up by SpaceX. Wow. So somebody like that. We've talked to people. A guy who owns Girlfriend.ai and gone through all of this stuff with him, and just leaders in the industry. And so it's been a wonderful experience. It's been a wonderful journey. I feel like I'm just at the tip of the iceberg, ready to really explode in it. And I'm really looking for people to take that journey with us.
I feel I'm speaking to the podcast whisperer. So you got any tips for me? What are some tips that, what makes a really good podcaster? I know the way I do this is very, very similar to the way I would want to listen to someone.
Yeah.
But I know that maybe that's maybe not the right way or whatever. Like, I just put my own opinion to it. Like, this is the way I would want to listen, or how when I see a podcast, what I like. That's kind of what I bring to the table here with this podcast. So what makes someone a good podcaster?
So there's two different elements of a podcast. There's a guest and there's a host. And what makes a really good guest is being able to communicate authentically with the host, understanding what the host's mode of communication on the podcast is, what's the pentameter, how long is the podcast going to go, all those different things. And really, don't come on it to sell something. Like if you're a guest, come on to teach something.
Value.
Just
lead with value.
Just lead with value, and people will follow. And so that's first. So as a guest, that's what you really need. As a host, have authentic questions and authentically be you. And I think number one, you've really achieved authentically being you, because whether it's Alfonso who's in the back of the room where I'm like, what was your name again? Or whether it's Alfonso on the stage or whether it's Alfonso on the podcast, you're the same person. And so what that does is that gives a uniform brand experience for anybody who deals with you. And so if you're always yourself everywhere you go, it makes it very easy to do business with you. And so I think you do a great job of doing that. And the second thing is asking really good questions. And because as a host, your whole job is you actually elevate your podcast by making the guest the princess at the party. And so I think that does a really great job for growing a podcast.
Well, you know what? There's a lot for me to learn. And I'm glad that you came, and you can get the audience started on their own podcasts, and everyone. I think it's just like remember when we used to say everyone's got a good story in them.
Yep.
Like to write a book. Like everyone's got at least one book in them. I think everyone's got a good podcast in them.
I think so too, because I think a lot of times we sit out there and we're sitting at the couch in the living room and we're having a conversation just like this. And those conversations are really important conversations. And those conversations can then be shared with so many people and create a lot of impact. And the impact that you can make in the world with the stories that we tell can be revolutionary. I remember there was one lady that I had a conversation with. We were talking about a podcast. She came up to me at a networking event. She said, "You're Steve from Money Mindset Mentoring Podcast." I'm like, "Yeah." She says, "Your episode with, what was his name? It doesn't really matter. Your episode that was with the guy who did about being an introvert. The Introvert's Guide to World Domination was the name of the book that he wrote." And she said, "That episode really affected me." And I said, "Well, how so?" And she goes, "I wouldn't be here shaking your hand if I didn't listen to that episode." And that to me is something that's really moving, because that's something, look, I'm not going to get anything money out of that. I don't care. But what I get out of that is just the feel good that I've been able to impact somebody's life through the people that I brought in front of them.
Last question. Difference between in person and, on like Zoom or whatnot, or like online type of podcast?
I think that's the difference is also between doing a live event and doing a webinar. I think they both have their place. I think they both have value. In person, you get a lot of ability to be able to have that connection by sharing the same airspace. I think there's a lot of value in that. But sometimes it's just not either easy to do. You have maybe a complicated relationship with a guest that they won't fly in or whatever. And doing it over, I wouldn't recommend Zoom. I mean, maybe as a starting point, but we have other technology. The technology we provide is the same technology that Vice, that Netflix, and Disney use.
Why Zoom? Why Zoom would not be recommended?
I think as you start getting further on into your podcasting journey, what you find very quickly is quality is really important. And Zoom,
sound,
absolutely.
pixels,
absolutely, and the difference in cost between something like a Zoom into what we offer is it's almost on par. So for a few dollars difference, you get so much more value in the technology, and I mean, why not take the jump?
Love it, Steve. This was great. I got to know more about you. That's my favorite part of the podcasting side of things, where, I did go. I've been on I don't know how many thousands of people's podcasts, but it's always about me. I like getting to know people, and that's kind of what resonates with me, and that's part of my DNA. But before we wrap it up, what's one mantra, one quote? What do you live by?
To me, it's success is my duty, responsibility, and obligation. And, I will do whatever it takes ethically to ensure that I hit success for my family, for my community, for the environment around me. And that all comes with just taking action. And to me, I think too many times people sit on the edge and they're like, I'm thinking about it, when just right on the other side of thinking about it and actually doing is going to expose everything that you were looking for.
Action, action, action. If nothing happens, nothing happens. Steve, thank you for coming by.
Thank you.
That's it. Alfonso loves you, and we'll see you all at the top. Woo!
Beautiful.
We made that announcement. Someone must have caught it. Someone must have been listening. Where's the next expand?
Thanks for listening to the Wealth Genius podcast, presented in part by Expand Investor Conference, this May 16th to 18th in Edmonton, Alberta. Get your tickets now at wealthgenius.ai/expand, and we'll see you at the top.